So GLP-1, clearly the hormone of the hour. Everyone is talking about it. And I myself have seen some pretty fascinating results, both in my own body and with my patients when appropriate utilization of tirzepatide and semaglutide has occurred. And when I tell you it is a game changer for people, it is a game changer. I have extreme firsthand experience on very much of a microdose, very, very, very small doses, sometimes as little as 10 to 20 units. People that never go over that who really get their lives back. But why is it that these drugs are working? And with some of the concerns that are popping up now, are there alternatives that we can do that are not medication? And the answer is yes. So I think just as in anything I do with you guys, anything I do with myself, it's tapping into your individuality and your sovereignty. So when you look at what's going on in your body, and I'd like to caution everybody before you even consider GLP-1, whether it is a supplement or especially if it's the drug, you want to get a monitor, a sugar monitor, a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, and understand your body first. So I have this conversation daily with patients. The depth of damage to your insulin glucose receptor, to your ability to process carbohydrates, to your ability to naturally produce GLP-1 is going to be very different depending on, let's say, things like your epigenetics, meaning your genetic makeup is going to be important, but it's more what have your genes been exposed to. So for example, if you come from an environment where you never got safety or stability in the home and you live in survival subconsciously or consciously, it's more likely your cortisol is constantly running high. It's more likely that even at a younger age, you may not be able to produce enough GLP-1 or the receptors are not working well. If you have a certain amount of toxin load from a variety of things, if you have infections, if you have so much stress in general that, let's say, you stress eat, if you have poor sleep habits, as you navigate hormonal shifts. These are all individual things, which is why it's very hard to give a recommendation across the board. So I don't like anytime anybody does that, they're wrong, because we're all individual beings and we're in an individual space in our own healing. So the best thing I found for helping to assess that is a continuous glucose monitor. It does many things. It puts you back in your body more accountable, because when you are able to look at what your sugar's doing, you're less likely to go and mindlessly snack on junk or processed foods. Plus, you get to see what's happening, the direct cause. You're accountable again for your eating habits or your stress. So when you put the CGM on, there's some interesting things to take note of, like what is your sugar in the morning, right when you wake up? What happens if you eat right away versus if you fast in the morning? What happens if you have coffee? What happens if it's black versus coffee with stuff in it? What happens if you have your shake first or a nice breakfast? What happens if you didn't sleep well versus if you did? What happens if you got in a fight with your partner? What happens if you had a nice relaxing day and you meditated? So these are examples of things that can actively impact our own production of GLP-1 and also our production of cortisol, which directly opposes it. So I want you guys to start out with that knowledge. Don't just blindly go into something, especially something that could have side effects like a medication. Start by knowing your body, knowing your trends, understanding what it's doing. And then there are ways, since GLP-1, what it does is it's helping metabolism, blood sugar control, appetite, inflammation. These are some of the things, and why it is such a blockbuster right now is because most of the population is struggling with these problems, right? There's chronic inflammation everywhere from the environmental toxins, from Wi-Fi. Some people are super sensitive to EMFs and Wi-Fi, from processed food, from sugar, from chronic stress. So when you have a drug or a supplement or a food that can help enhance this, you're going to feel better in lots of different ways and prevent disease down the line. So when we talk about the injectables or the prescription versions that can be compounded or come as a drug like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro, a lot of the negativity around them is coming from people who cannot prescribe them. So I would also be aware when you're hearing negativity. So I kind of look at it, obviously a drug would not be first choice, but you want to pay attention to who you're listening to, plus understand the fact that the sheer volume of humans that are on these medications, there is going to be some level of side effects. Just that's the nature. I've never seen anything be given as ubiquitously to so many people with so many different backgrounds. So I think really the answer lies in avoiding them if you can, meaning let's try food, let's try supplements, but if your blood sugar is erratic, if you've really struggled and you're starting to have other issues related with metabolic syndrome or blood sugar imbalances or inflammation, they could just, done in the right way, be the answer you've been looking for and ideally utilized for short term. The risks, things like nausea, slowing of your gut tract, constipation, other bowel related issues. There are unclear long-term risks. There was a study with rodents with thyroid issues, thyroid cancer. That was the main concern. So if you have a history of thyroid cancer, a family history of multiple endocrine neoplasia, which is a genetic issue that causes a specific type of thyroid issues, you definitely want to avoid these drugs. There are some thoughts about ocular changes or vision changes that can be concerning. So again, we don't know long-term risks, although I will say these medicines have been out for 15 years. So when people are saying they're definitely bad, they need to be pulled, they can't be prescribed, we've had 15 years minimum of experience with them, and it is a sheer volume experiment that we're having now in the country, in the world. So again, medication last, but I'm also not anti, which I'm one of those with you guys. We do this together, where I am helping to bridge. I'm helping you bridge between the two. So if you are having a lot of these issues or symptoms, the first thing you could try are certain foods. There are high fiber foods, and many of us do not get enough fiber. High fiber, fermented foods, even things like apple cider vinegar that can naturally boost GLP-1. And we've had some reels and different stories about those foods. So definitely try that. You want to make sure that you're working on strength training. So that's another huge category. Most people have now heard the importance of building muscle, but maybe you haven't fully transitioned. You're still trying to get that run in for 45 minutes to an hour, and that is spiking cortisol in a lot of cases. So the old workouts that we would do, we're now questioning, like maybe bringing those down a bit. For cardio, we still need some level of cardio training for our heart circulatory system, but it's muscle, the formation of muscle, that really helps with insulin sensitivity and GLP-1 levels. So working on building muscle, working on dietary foods that boost GLP-1, and then there are definitely supplements. I will say the supplement companies are quick to hop on board. Anytime something is such a blockbuster in a drug form, you'll see every supplement company coming out with their alternative. And I've seen some mixed results, but berberine and some other types of nutrients and blends can help certain people. So definitely you want to try that potentially before any kind of medication. Bottom line is you can get results with optimizing your metabolism without drugs. You do not need these drugs. You can try these other things, and they very often do work. However, the fear-based tactics of how they're really bad, you're going to go blind, you're going to have thyroid cancer, you're going to waste all your muscle off your face and your butt, that has not been my experience. If you microdose, very low doses, potentially for a shorter period of time, and you're getting enough protein and weightlifting, it may be just what you need to turn things around for you. So find where your individuality lies, what works for you, what is the safest for you. And I'm here to help in any way I can.